Lesson 5 and Lesson 6 look at applications of linear systems. So how can I use this in contextual situations? I know how to do it when I'm given the equation and said just find this, but if I was given a problem, could I use a linear system of equations to solve the problem? So you can solve the linear system by graphing, by substitution, or by elimination. And you'll be prompted in most cases as to which way I want you to solve it. On your review assignment, if you look at that word, the problem solving section, I actually specified you have to use all three methods for at least one question. Like one question has to be done by graphing, one needs to be by substitution, one needs to be by elimination. You can pick and choose which questions, but I need to be able to see evidence that you can solve using all three. But if you decide to just do one question substitution and everything else graph, or one substitution, one elimination, and everything else graphically, as long as you meet the guidelines put in the assignment, it would be fine. If you decided you like elimination and you want to do everything by elimination, again, you'd have to have one by substitution, one by graphing, but all the rest of them could be done by elimination. So when we look at problem solving, there are 4 general steps to any problem. This first step is you need to identify your variables. What is it that what are your unknowns? Sometimes there's 1, sometimes there could be 2. Sometimes you let X be this one, Y be that one. So you need to identify your unknown variables. Then you form a system of equations using those variables, solve the system, check to see if the solution is the answer to the problem. And if it's not, use that solution to then answer the problem. So, look at the first example. The difference between 2 numbers is 9. The large number is 3 more than twice the smaller number. Find the numbers. So, I don't know what the numbers are. But I do know that one is bigger than the other. So, those are my unknowns. Give me a variable. A and B. So now I need to decide, is A the big number or the small number? You tell me. What do we want A to be? Do I want it to be the larger number? Okay, so A is the larger number, and B is the smaller number. This is a very important part of doing the problem, is identifying what these variables are before you start writing the equations, so that you don't get confused, so that when you find the solution, you know when I find the answer of A at the bottom, oh yeah, that's the larger number. If I don't write this down, I am going to end up forgetting. Or when I get that answer at the bottom, I'm not even going to think back as to whether or not that answers the problem that I'm looking for. So the difference between the 2 numbers is 9. How can I use these variables to express that in mathematical notation? So how do I show difference? What operation shows difference? Minusing. So does it matter if I go A minus B or B minus A? Does order matter when I subtract? Does it matter if I go 5 minus 3 or 3 minus 5? What's 5 minus 3? And 3 minus 5? So does it matter which way I subtract them? Okay. So in order to get 9 for my answer, would I go A minus B or B minus A? Why A minus B? A is the larger number. Now, it could be a possibility where maybe you would go B minus A if I was looking at negatives, but generally when we think subtraction, we always go the bigger number minus the smaller number. The large number is 3 more than twice the smaller number. How would I write that in mathematical symbols? So, how would I write twice the smaller number? 2b, and I need to be 3 more than that. So after I take twice of this smaller number, what do I have to do then? 3 more would be to add 3. And is, when we see is in problem solving, that's a good indication of equals. So this twice the smaller number and 3 more than that is the larger number. There are my 2 equations. I could pick whichever method I want to solve. I could do this graphically, I could use this algebraically. We're going to pick algebraic methods to solve. I can solve by elimination or by substitution. I'm going to pick substitution because I already have this written as an A equals. It's already been nicely isolated. So I'm going to substitute this equation into the first one. So wherever I see an A, I'm going to rewrite that A as 2b plus 3 minus b would be equal to 9. So what is 2b minus b? Just b. So I have b plus 3 equals 9. And how do I get rid of the 3? Subtract 3 on each side, and what does b equal? Okay? And remember, b is the small number. So now I need to find the larger number, so I can put it back into that equation. A minus 6 equals 9. So how do I get a by itself? Add 6, and what's 9 plus 6? And this is the larger number. So now I've identified my 2 numbers. So then I need to put a sentence answer, because this is a problem solving. So the numbers are 15 and 6. And I can use those numbers and check to see if it fits in the problem. The difference between the 2 numbers is 9. 15 minus 6, is that 9? Yes. The larger number is 3 more than twice the smaller. Double the smaller number, what do I get? 12, add 3 to it, I get 15. So I get my larger number. Okay? Okay, so let's look at class example number 2, perimeter. The perimeter of a rectangle is 40 meters. The width is 4 meters less than the length. Find the dimensions of the rectangle. If you're dealing with something that talks about perimeter or area or volume, sketch a diagram. Get that visual so that you can think about what it is that you're looking at. So I'm going to sketch my rectangle. There's my rectangle. Now, what are the dimensions I have on a rectangle? I have the width and I have the length. That's what I get when I put together a triangle or a rectangle. So I have the width and I have the length. What do I know about my rectangle? The perimeter. How do I use my width and my length to get perimeter? So first of all, what is perimeter? Perimeter is going around the outside. So if I go around the outside, what would I be doing with these numbers around the outside? That's area. So if I walk around, what would I be doing with these numbers to figure out the total distance around the rectangle? Adding them. So how many widths do I add? And how many lengths do I have? So my perimeter is 2 of the lengths and 2 of the widths. And my perimeter is 40. So there's one of my equations. 40 is equal to 2 of those lengths and 2 of those widths. And in case I used X and Y, W equals width, L equals length, just so that that I'm very clear as to what L and W stand for. So that's my first sentence. My second sentence, the width is 4 meters less than the length. What does that mean? So sometimes it's easier to pick a number. Let's say the width was 20. If the width is 4 meters less than the length, what's the length going to be? 24. How did you get the 24? Added the 4 to the width. I could go the other way. Suppose the length was 17. What's the width? 13. Because in that case, I would subtract 4. So I just need to figure out, do I want to write this as the length equals something or the width equals something? So because it tells me that the width is 4 meters less than the length, I'm going to say the length is equal to the width plus 4. Or I could go the width equals the length minus 4. Okay? I'm going to choose this one just because it's a plus, and then I don't have any negatives that I have to worry about. Now, just like in the last question, I have the equation already written as an L equals, so I could do that substitution. Back into this equation where I see an L, I can now replace it with a W plus 4. So I get 2 times W plus 4 plus 2W. So how would I solve this equation? What would I do first? So I remove the brackets, and what do I get when I remove the brackets? Okay. Now what? And if I add the W's together, how many W's do I get? Okay. Now what? Subtract the 8. What's 40 minus 8? 36? 32. Okay, so 32 equals 4W. Now what? Divide by 4. And when I divide by 4, what does W equal? 8. So W equals 8, and now I can put it back into this equation. W equals 8. What does L equal? 12. So the length is 12 meters. The width is 8 meters. Is the width 4 meters less than the length? Yes. Is the perimeter equal to 40? Well, 12 plus 8 is 20, plus another 12 is 32, plus another 8 would be 40. So there's my check. Okay. These are my favorite questions, the money questions. Because we can solve systems of equations dealing with money. Gary has $260 in $5 bills and $10 bills, and he has 33 bills in total. The question is, how many of each does he have? There's only one possible solution to this. There's only one possible arrangement of 5s and 10s that will give me 33 bills and $260. So, what are my variables? What are my unknowns? So go back to, what is the question asking you to find? Pardon, Kate? How many of each bill do I have? So give me a variable that I could use for the number of $5 bills. F, okay? So F will equal the number of $5 bills. Okay? What variable could I use for the number of $10 bills? T. Okay. Gary has $260. How do I figure out the $260? If I gave you a stack of 5s and 10s, how would you figure out how much money you had? Add what? Would I just add the number of bills that I had, or what would I have to do? I have to add the value of the bills. So my $5 bills have a value of $5 each. So if I have 5 $5 bills, how much money do I have? $25. If I have 3 $10 bills, how much money do I have? $30. So when I write this out as an equation, to get my $260, I need to take the number of $5 bills and multiply it by 5, because each one is worth $5, and then the number of $10 bills and multiply them by 10. Okay? To be very careful when you use the letter T, because it can look like a plus sign. So just watch how you're using it. Okay? There's one of my equations. The other equation, he has 33 bills in total. What does that mean? All the bills are equal to 33. So the number of $5 bills plus the number of $10 bills equals 33. Now this time, I could do the substitution. I could rearrange this and get F by itself or get T by itself, but we're going to try elimination. So if I wanted to eliminate my $5 bills, my Fs, what would I need to multiply this equation by? By 5, because I want the coefficient to be the same as this one. So if I multiply by 5, I get 5 Fs, 5 Ts, and what's 33 times 5?
165.
Now am I going to add these equations together or subtract them? Subtract, because 5 minus 5 would give me 0. So 260 minus 165 is 95. My F's will disappear because they'll become 0. And then my T's, 10T minus 5T. 5T. Okay, divide by 5, and what do you get? 19. So I have 19 $10 bills. And now I can put it back into this equation. The number of $5 bills plus my 19 $10 bills has to equal 33. So how many $10 bills, or sorry, how many $5 bills do I have?
14.
So I have 14 $5 bills and 19 $10 bills. If I have 14 $5 bills, how much money do I have? $70. Okay, I'm going to show you a trick with this one. If I take half of 14, what do I get? 7. And if I double 5, what do I get? What's 10 times 7? 70. It's called the half and double. So if I take half of one and double the other, the product's the same as what I have here. So when you have something that's a 5, what you can do is take half of this and bring that up to 10, because it's always easier to multiply by 10. What's 19 times 10? 190. And 190 plus $70. 260, which is how much I was supposed to have. So I've checked my answer. The 14 $5 bills and the 19 $10 bills is going to give me $260. Okay? Question number 4. Laura invested her inheritance of $48,000 into 2 different mutual funds. At the end of 1 year, one fund had earned 10.5% interest, the other had earned 12% interest. If she received $5,520 in interest, how much had she put into each account? So how do I set this up? What are my unknowns? What don't I know? Or in other words, what do I need to find out? How much she invested into each fund. So she has 2 mutual funds. So give me 2 variables, X and Y. So I can let X be the amount invested in, we'll call it Fund A, in the first fund. Then Y would be the amount invested in the second fund, which we'll call Fund B. How much money did she invest? $48,000. So the amount of money in Fund A and the amount of money in Fund B has to equal $48,000. What else do I know? The interest that she earned. So how do I calculate the interest earned on the first account? So suppose she invested $3,000 in the first account. How would I figure out the interest that she earned on that account? So just take a moment. $3,000 in Fund A, which was the 10.5% interest. Maybe we should put that in brackets there. How much interest would that be? What would I do? Multiply the 3,000 by what? Okay, and do I multiply it by 10.5? What do I have to change it to? To a decimal. I have to multiply it by that 0.105. So if I take the amount invested into Fund X and multiply it by 0.105, that will give me the interest she earned off of the first fund. And then I can do the same thing for the second fund, only what would I multiply it by? 0.12. And how much interest would that give me? The interest is told to me right here. $5,520. Now we're going to try solving this one by elimination, just so that I can show you some of the processes that we can use. So what I can look at doing is with this equation right here, my second equation, I've got these decimals, and they're not great decimals to work with. So I can eliminate my decimals. What can I multiply 0.12 by to get rid of the decimal? It's in the hundredths place, so I can multiply it by 100. So I'm going to multiply each term by 100. And I'm going to get 10.5x plus 12y equals 5,000, or sorry, not 5,000, it would be 5 million. No, 552,000, there we go. Would be the amount that I would get. So if I'm going to use elimination, here's my first equation, then what would I want to multiply this equation by? By 12, so that my y's match up. So when I multiply it by 12, I'll get 12 x's, 12 y's, and then 48,000 times 12 equals 576,000. And then I would subtract. So when I go 12x minus 10.5x, what do I get? 1.5x. And 576,000 minus 552,000. 24,000. And when I divide by 1.5, how much? 16,000. That's how much I invested into Fund A. And together I invested $48,000. So to figure out Fund B, it's 16,000 plus what? Equals 48. So what would the second fund be? $32,000. So together that gives me 48,000, and I could go through and I could check this. I could figure out what 10.5% of 16,000 is and what 12% of 32,000 is, and check to see if those two sums equal $5,520. So then my sentence is Laura invested $16,000 at 10.5% interest and $32,000 at 12% interest. So the questions that I would like you to work on are questions 1, 3, 5, and 9. So 1, 3, 5, and 9.